All right, I have the recording started and my computer clock says it is 11:30, so I feel like we're ready to kick this off and get going. Welcome everybody to our October TMN Tuesday. As part of our TMN Tuesday program every year, we have, for the last couple of years at least, we've kept October reserved for our chapter project fair, a way for chapters to showcase the projects that they're working on throughout the area and also build out the awards program for the conference. Michelle's going to give more information about the project fair and the process of judging in just a little bit. But let's get started with our virtual meeting room etiquette as always. We are here today at 11:30. Today's program will run for 2 hours. If you are new to the TMN Tuesday using WebEx, we do have a help guide on our website. And for participants today, as well as speakers or panelists, the chat room will stay open for open communication to help facilitate questions. Please use your best spelling and grammar possible and avoid acronyms. Professional and respectful communication in the chat is an always request as well. Again, 2 hours for today's advanced training, and Michelle is going to get into that here in just a little bit. I'm glad to have everybody here.
Yeah, so as a reminder, today's, if you can go back to that slide, sorry. As we mentioned, today could be up to 2 hours of advanced training. We know that this is a longer advanced training TMN Tuesday. And some of you may be dropping in just to see the presentation of your own chapter. So just keep in mind that to only count the time that you're actually online or watching. And today's event could be up to 2 hours, depending on those parameters. Okay, next slide.
So you guys are all aware, nothing you have to do.
All right, this is TMN Tuesday is one of my favorite. It's a chance that we all get to see some of the projects that chapters have been undertaking over the past year. And all of these chapters that have submitted projects today, every chapter has an opportunity to submit a project fair entry, exemplary project fair entry into our annual project fair. It always happens during October. Our awardees will be awarded at the annual meeting in October, but as I mentioned, everybody has an opportunity to submit a project to compete for kind of the project of the year or top projects of the year awards at our annual meeting. And that's what we're doing today. So our chapters that have, our 5 chapters that have submitted projects this year for this competition will be presenting through this TMN Tuesday and giving us a synopsis of what their projects are. And the winners of this competition will receive a small project grant to go towards continuing their project that they're presenting or to start a new one that they want to start at their local chapter level. So that's what the awards cover for and part of being named a top project of the year. To give you an idea of we've been doing kind of this format, this online webinar format for this competition since really the pandemic, when we needed to pivot and change what our project fair, how our project fair was presented. In the old days, we presented as an old science fair with science fair posters. And then we have modernized since then and have our chapters present using video or PowerPoints, which you'll see a lot of today, and through this TMN Tuesday process. All of the projects that are submitted, no matter who wins this competition, all of the projects that are submitted are quite amazing and worthy of awards. And to give you an example of some of last year's awards, you can see, I think Hannah, they've already dropped the links to previous year's award winners and projects that have been presented through this process over the past couple of years. So last year's awardee for the top first place was our Rio Brazos chapter with their Brazos River cleanup and camp out and educational extravaganza. So I can't wait to see who's named in the top projects this year.
The data you got, like, data, Dr. Johnson,
We'll go to the next one.
review the basic conference,
All right, in our quest to provide you the most up-to-date information on VMS and how to report your hours, you've been seeing us do this with our TMN Tuesdays over the past few months. For those of you attending online today as viewers, for this TMN Tuesday, you would, as a general member, report this opportunity as an advanced training. In your AT description, write October 2024 TMN Tuesday Chapter Project Fair.
statewide, it's about 125 inches.
Okay, and then here's a quick overview of today's agenda. We are getting through the introductions right now. Presenting today, each presentation will be 15 minutes with a 15-minute presentation with up to 5 minutes of questions. We have our Galveston Bay Area chapter, Hays County chapter, Blue Stem chapter, our East Texas chapter, and our North Texas chapter all presenting today. We will give everybody online opportunity to have any questions answered in chat, through chat as the time allows. After each presentation today, we are going to give our judges online the first opportunity to ask any questions that they would like to get answered in order to make the most fair judgment and scoring, as they are scoring each of the projects themselves. And we'll give them first priority to get questions answered. And then our Master Naturalist administrative team, program team will moderate questions that come in through the chat once all those are answered. And then if there's any burning questions that can't get answered through today, but they are, it appears that they need to be answered or would be great information to have, we'll try to follow up with the chapters presenting and have those as FAQs after the fact, or have the questions answered after the fact and put those on our website. Another reminder that today everything is being recorded. Just like any of our TMN Tuesdays, we will have the recording placed on our website following the event, most likely by tomorrow. And then it will also be posted on our YouTube channel too.
Looking at the management unit data specifically.
All right, we mentioned that this is a project fair competition with awards taking place. We are judging today. There is a panel of judges online today. We have two people from agencies, so one from Parks and Wildlife, one from AgriLife Extension, and then 5 Master Naturalist volunteers from other chapters who are sitting on our judges panel today. Those people will be revealed and formally thanked at our annual meeting. And the awards for today's event will be, you will find out the top prizes at our annual meeting during the Sunday morning awards presentation, October 27th. And as with all of our TMN Tuesdays, please help support future events like this. And please help us to remain eligible for funding that supports this and future events. If you could take the survey at that QR code. And I think we've already dropped the link in the chat. Thank you, Hannah. You can follow the link in the chat, or if you have your cell phone available, you can hover over that QR code and it'll take you to the same survey as well. The survey is voluntary, but thank you for your participation.
And we're ready to roll.
Okay. Our first presenter this morning is our Galveston Bay Area chapter. And they are going to present their Thunderbirders and Beyond project, which is a youth birding clubs project. So I'm going to hand permissions over to Awen. And Awen can get started.
Good morning. My name is Awen Johnson, and I'm a member of the Galveston Bay Area chapter. And I'd like to thank everybody, especially our judges, for being here this morning. I'm super excited to present my project, Thunderbirders and Beyond. I am at work, so I have this pre-recorded. Let me get this ready to go. Okay.
I'm going to give you a thumbs up, Owen, when I can hear it, just to
Okay.
give you a visual.
But you can see it?
I can see it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Welcome to Thunderbirders and Beyond. The Thunderbirders is a youth birding club which started at Clear Lake City Elementary, and over the past couple of years, and with the help of fellow chapter members, we have been able to expand this club into other area schools. A common question I get is how I came up with the idea to start a youth birding club. The idea initially came to me on a spring birding trip to High Island. My then 4th grade son invited his best friend. Those two had a grand time birding and exploring together. Within a few weeks, I found myself proposing the idea of an after-school youth birding club to their principal. She loved the idea. She liked that her students would be able to develop a skill and hobby they could enjoy throughout their lives. And the CLCE Thunderbirders was born. We started with 11 4th and 5th graders, 1 teacher sponsor, and me. I had no budget, no idea what I was going to do with these students, and at the time, I was seriously questioning what I had gotten myself into. Which leads me into the next question I hear frequently. What exactly do you do in a birding club? Well, I have a background in education, so I tackled this question by setting some learning objectives and goals. First, I wanted to set these children up for birding success by making sure they could recognize common resident birds in our area. I next thought about how our chapter, and all of Texas really, is very lucky to have so many migratory birds pass through each year. I wanted the youth birders to get excited about migration and also have the skills to identify migratory birds they might encounter. I also wanted them to have the opportunity to participate in citizen science using eBird and Merlin. And I definitely wanted to make sure they learned to bird ethically and responsibly. That is the goal I focus on for our first meeting each year. The school district teaches students the Character Counts 6 pillars of character: trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. At the first meeting, I give the students different birding scenarios, like people leaving trash on the trail, or somebody talking really loud, or horseplay and disruptive behavior. And we discuss why those do not exhibit the pillars of character the students are familiar with. We also focus on positive actions, like helping a fellow birder spot a bird, or caring for our equipment, the binoculars. Then we have an indoor birding adventure, kind of like a scavenger hunt. This allows the students to practice ethical birding in a controlled environment. I create a checklist of common birds in our area, and the students go around the room looking for the different birds. The birds you see in the picture and that I use for this activity come from the board game Wingspan. I like this activity because we are setting expectations for correct birding behavior, and the students get to see the great variety and beauty of different birds. Create a bird is another favorite activity. After an introduction to field marks, each student gets an incomplete outline of a bird, dice, a pencil, markers, and crayons. Each roll of the dice determines a different field mark. For example, a roll of the dice will determine the specific type of beak a student's bird will have. Another roll might indicate the number of wing bars. Once the students have finished adding all the different field marks, they name their birds. The end products, like the painted soarer you see on the right, are always fun to see. The birds on the left were hung in the cafeteria last year for the whole school to enjoy. And of course, our favorite activity is to bird. We were actually posing for a yearbook photo when this picture was taken. While we were posing, a red-shouldered hawk came swooping in and gave us a great birding moment. The first year of the Thunderbirders was very successful, and I knew this was an opportunity I wanted to provide to as many children as possible. Which takes us to the beyond part of this presentation. In the fall of 2023, 3 new clubs started. I continued with the Thunderbirders, and I also took on a second club, the Wedgwood Warblers. And 2 amazing birders and fellow Galveston Bay area chapter members each started a separate club. Lisa Hardcastle led the Stewart Super Seagulls, and Jenny Dudley started the Campbell Bluebirds. The result was 4 very unique birding clubs. I want to emphasize the word unique because that is what has led to our success. Initially, we met and planned together, and we still bounce ideas off each other, but each leader has their own style and focus. Regardless of the approach, each club is creating an awareness and love of birds and highlighting the importance of birds in our world. The clubs and their leaders are reaching beyond the youth birders to the entire school community. We've managed to incorporate booths into family fun days and school carnivals. Here you see several children learning to use binoculars. I have been able to submit spring migration awareness messages in past school newsletters. At that same binocular station, we had flyers advertising the Great Backyard Bird Count with instructions for using eBird and Merlin so families could participate. The newsletter message you see on the left was giving a recap of the stats for that Great Backyard Bird Count, and also advertising the upcoming Global Big Day that May. When the Campbell Bluebirds first started meeting, they discovered a nesting killdeer on the school grounds. This shifted that club's focus for the next few weeks. They created signs with information about killdeer and how to protect this nesting site. They also petitioned the administration to block off the nesting site, and the whole campus became invested in the success of this little killdeer. The Campbell Bluebirds are also included in the video on the homepage of the school's website, advertising all the extracurricular opportunities offered at this elementary. As we've grown, we've had opportunities to collaborate with and benefit from other organizations. The Clear Lake Buddies, a local church group, learned of the Thunderbirders and donated our first set of binoculars. There were enough for each Thunderbirder to have a pair of binoculars every time we birded. Our biggest collaboration has been with Exploration Green, which is a short walk from the Thunderbirders school and a spot we frequent for birding. I was able to provide input on their purchase of binoculars and field guides. In addition to using these supplies for their own events, they also wanted to provide quality resources for the youth birders to use during their meetings. We've also been able to give back by volunteering at Exploration Green. We provided binocular lessons for the public at the recent Squawk Walk event held a couple of weekends ago. This event also provided an opportunity to promote the Texas Master Naturalist program. We've also been able to advertise the Environmental Institute of Houston's Youth Birding Club. We create flyers like the one you see here, so parents are aware of this opportunity for children to continue practicing their birding skills. I'm very proud of all we've been able to accomplish over the past 2 years. There are currently 7 Master Naturalist leaders, and thus far we have devoted 324.5 hours to our youth birders. The teacher sponsor number is my favorite number. The clubs have become popular among the adults at the schools, and now we have 11 teachers and staff members, not only assisting with club meetings, but also learning about birds. And at the end of this school year, we will have reached at least 120 youth birders. And remember how I started with no budget? Well, this year, the Galveston Bay Area chapter provided funds for more binoculars, field guides, composition notebooks to be used for nature journaling, and birding patches, which club members receive at the end of the school year. The initial design seen on the left was created by the CLCE art teacher. He then modified that design to include all 4 clubs last year, as shown in the patch on the right. As I conclude, I want to revisit that initial question. Why start a youth birding club? When I was speaking to the principal at Wedgwood Elementary last year, she pointed out the birding club provided an activity for those students who would probably not join a traditional extracurricular. She also felt they had seen behavior improvements from some of their students due to their participation in the Wedgwood Warblers. At an October Big Day field trip, a father told me he was so thankful for this club because he would have never known his daughter was a birder. I personally think there's a birder inside of everyone. Some are just a bit more passionate about birds than others. Birds are everywhere, and birding clubs allow children to not only discover those birds, but also become more aware of nature and develop a passion they might not otherwise discover. As we have grown, the opportunities to reach out to students, their families, and the community keep presenting themselves. We've been able to spread the word about Global Big Days, Christmas bird counts, the Great Backyard Bird Count, local organizations' conservation efforts, and the Texas Master Naturalist Program. So what should you do if you want to start a youth birding club? The first step would be to contact a local school, which can be difficult. So think about who you know that is somehow connected to a school. This could be a principal, a PTA member, a parent, or a teacher. There might also be an existing program that would benefit from a birding club component. If it isn't possible to work with the local schools, I think a youth birding club would also be successful at a library, a community center, or a nature center. The key is to find a partner within that organization, like our teacher sponsors, who can help make sure you follow that organization's policies and procedures and can be present during your club meetings. Coming up with activities and games can be difficult. A great place to start is the Cornell Lab K-12 education site. They actually have a webinar series starting on October 16th, and that first webinar is titled Building a Bird Club. You can also scan this QR code to access a sample youth birding club schedule with activity ideas and descriptions. This might generate and spark ideas for anyone interested in starting a youth birding club. I'd like to thank everyone again for taking the time to listen and learn a little about the Thunderbirders and the Galveston Bay Area chapter's youth birding clubs. There is that same QR code on the right. And if you would like more information or have questions about starting a youth birding club, I'd love to hear from you. Email me anytime at texanaowen@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Awen.
Thank you.
Great presentation. And birding as a master naturalist gateway,
Yes.
or a gateway to becoming master naturalist. That's great. I want to give our judges an opportunity to come off mic and ask any questions first. So give them just a second, or if you want to drop a question in the chat, we can moderate that too.
While we're waiting, I think one of my co-members dropped a link to
Yes,
that
Mary.
same schedule in the chat. So if you have problems with the QR code, there's also a link in the chat.
Yep, Mary Dauberstein dropped the Birding Club sample weekly activities link in the chat. So if you missed the QR code.
This
Okay.
sounds super fun. I was kind of curious, what would be your piece of advice to someone that's wanting to start this in their local chapter?
So I guess be be diligent about it, and just perseverance is very important in this. I was very lucky because I was already a volunteer at the school, and getting the bird club started at that school was fairly easy because I knew the principal, I knew the schools. Spreading out to more schools, I contacted every principal in the district. I figured the worst that was going to happen is it would be a no, and we wouldn't, we would be basically where we were. And as I did that, I got responses back, and it's a lot of working out the logistics, finding volunteers, and just being persistent, just, asking and keep bringing it up. And a lot of I've had several people shadow the clubs, and I've been able to present at our kind of a little project fair for our new members, and just following up and just continuing, I guess, putting a little pressure on people. Hey, how can we make this happen? How can we get this started? And I think the other key is realizing that it's not a one size fits all. So I talked about how each club is unique, and getting the ideas out there and sharing ideas, but then letting each leader, and now we have co-leaders, take on that club and do with it what's comfortable for them.
So there's a couple of questions in the chat from judges. The first one that came in, how many of your chapter members were involved? And I'd like to add like a second part to that question. Per club, how many chapter members help, or do you recommend per club?
So last year when we had the 4 schools going, we only had 3 leaders. And this year we still have our 4 schools, and we now have 7 leaders. So that means that we have at least a partner at every school, except for our Campbell Bluebirds. That's still Ms. Dudley. So that makes it easier. It makes it easier on scheduling. We're actually able to schedule it out where we meet. If you're meeting every week, the leader isn't actually meeting every week, but able to go every other week, kind of trade off. And I do, like I said a little bit ago, we do have some people that have shadowed. So I'm always looking for new volunteers who want to come out and go out with the clubs and kind of see what we do and learn what we do, so that they can come in and assist, and hopefully when we get to next year, maybe start a new club as well. But you need to have at least 1 leader per club, and we're trying to get where we have partners for each club.
And the partners, they do or they don't have to be staff from each of the schools?
So we have, when I talk about partner leaders, those are master naturalists. Our sponsors for the schools, they are members of the school. I actually have 1 school who's interested in starting this. They already have a lot of programs going on, and the principal every year, yes, please start it. I can't give you any teachers. And I always say, no, we need to have a teacher present.
That school buy-in is important.
Yes. And also just to protect ourselves, working with children, and we want to make sure somebody is there that can vouch that everything we're doing is good.
I see 2 more questions, and I think we have just enough time to get those answered. Where do you store binoculars for each school?
So Exploration Green actually has a large set of binoculars that I'm able to check out from them, and they have their own warehouse. This past summer, we purchased 20 more binoculars, and those are at our headquarters, our Ag Extension office. That's where they're stored. And the leaders from those clubs that are closer to that area are able to go and check them out from there. And then they're able to meet up with each other and exchange if they're needing them for the clubs. And then some of the schools have their own binoculars that have been donated, so those are stored at the school. So it kind of depends on the club and which set of binoculars we're using.
Okay. So not everybody's using the same type of binoculars.
Not everybody's using, and some of the kids bring their own binoculars, which I actually like, because then they can go home and use them. But we make sure they learn and know how to use them.
Okay. Last question we'll have time for. How, if you can answer it quickly, how often do they meet and for how long?
I started out once a week for 45 minutes. This past year, I moved to an every other week schedule where we meet for 1 hour. So over the school year, it actually gives us more time and it's a little bit easier to keep up with that schedule. Our Campbell Bluebirds, though, still meet every week.
And it's all year.
It's all year we start at the end of the first 6 to 9 weeks and we go through May.
Okay. Thank you, Awen. I know you
All right,
need to
thank
get back to your job. So thank you for being
Thank you so
available
much.
today. All right, we're going to move next. Tina, I've just given you presenter permissions, and our next presentation is from the Hays County chapter on their modern pictographs project. And if
Okay,
you remember,
just a minute, I'm trying to get this up here.
sure.
Huh. There we go. Okay. Hello. Good morning. That was a wonderful presentation, Ewan. I just thought that was great. But I'm going to do something kind of similar. My name is Tina Atkins. I'm with Hays County Master Naturalists, and my presentation is about modern pictographs.
Tina, before you get rolling too far, you're
Okay.
not in full screen mode with your slides, and I'm sure you intend to put that into full screen mode.
Okay, hang on one moment. There we go. Does that work better?
That works perfect. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. My project that I was working on for about a year was the modern pictographs. And everybody knows that a picture is worth 1,000 words. A single image can tell a story without excessive verbiage, including the size, shape, posture, patterns of color, and even unique behaviors of different bird species. Telltale identifiers of certain birds can be an immediate reward, especially for a novice birder. So the background for this project is based on Hays County Master Naturalists. They've set a goal to build bird viewing stations in all the parks in Hays County, and they currently have built 8 bird blinds throughout the county. Several different organizations cooperated to build the 2 bird viewing stations at Dripping Springs Ranch Park and Charo Ranch Park, including multiple bird feeding and water stations and owl houses at each park. Both parks also have a total of 12 eastern bluebird nest boxes and 3 chimney swift towers built by local Boy Scouts. Thus, it's a coordinated effort for the entire Hays County Master Naturalists, and especially within Dripping Springs. First of all, many of these, people new to birding, they need help identifying birds. A beginning birder in particular needs assistance in identifying a particular bird species easily without going back and forth, continually referring to the current detailed books, causing movement, which in turn results the birds in taking flight. And then the visitors have missed an opportunity to identify that bird. So while watching birding, it's very difficult to both observe quietly and also simultaneously referring to the fixed in place, bulky and tattered books in order to accurately identify the birds observed. So the books on the right, the top one is a book which is in a fixed position at Dripping Springs Ranch Park. It's in a bookcase to help protect the book, and it has a lot of details, 1 page per each species in that book, and the one in Charo Ranch also. And that's the book placement on the bottom. And I know it's been there for a long time in Char Ranch, and a Girl Scout troop compiled that and put that together for one of their Eagle projects or Golden projects. So, but they're falling apart. They're hard to maintain. They're hard to view, and you can look at them after you've checked out the birds and observed some birds, but it's very hard otherwise to do it at the same time. So we found a need for durable, colorful, and distinct signs for both parks. So thus the Bird Identification Sign Project was created. And I was also inspired, not just for the need, but because I'm, as a master naturalist, I'm not a birder, but I really wanted to learn to identify a lot of different birds myself. And this helped me to do that. Okay. The city of Dripping Springs also has been designated as a Texas Audubon Bird City in 2022, which is one of only 10 in Texas, and 4 Dripping Springs parks are listed as the top 50 birding hotspots in Hays County on eBird website, with Char Ranch Park ranking in the upper teens and Dripping Springs Ranch Park ranking in 6th place in Hays County. So it was a real need for this city. The purpose of this is, the key purpose is to prominently display these signs in each existing bird viewing station to assist in educating the public to identify local birds for their own interest, along with bird enthusiasts of all skill levels. So this is mainly for, it can be for beginning birders, but it's also for birders who love to come and look out at the current blinds. Char Ranch Park's blind is on the left, and it's much smaller. Dripping Springs Ranch Park is on the right, and that is just one side of it. So there's another side. It's a fairly large blind. Okay. In developing this, originally I had to go to get some bids to find out what this is going to cost. And I went to several different local bidders or vendors, and I chose the one that had a reasonable cost, that they have a reference for good quality, and also for proximity for communicating and collaborating with them. I initially, then after that, I had to go to the Hays County Master Naturalist Board to see if I couldn't get some funding for the production of signs. And we determined an original estimate was around the 1,100 range. After that, then I had to go to the Dripping Springs Parks and Rec, which is part of the city of Dripping Springs. I had to go to their commissioners meetings several times and present this proposal to them also. Okay, and as you can see, my budget's on the right here. It was pretty simple budget, and we didn't have to do anything until the final invoices came in. Okay, so in developing this project, we wanted to, after talking to the vendors, we determined that the best materials to use were actually aluminum composite materials. They're very durable for external use. The material is preferred over laminated signs. I went to several different bird viewing stations or blinds and found out that most of them have laminated signs, which tend to warp, fade, and degrade. Even though these signs are withheld inside under a roof, in a bird blind, they have access to, rainwater coming in and fading from the sun. So the other advantage is signs can easily be replaced when they're damaged. And additional signs can be included as new species are observed. Okay, the master naturalists are doing this project. So of course, we decided that the photographs would also be obtained from Hays County Master Naturalists and Hays County Birding Club members. And this way they gave their prior permission and we didn't have to worry about any copyright infringement. So the fundamental question is, which bird species should we select out of 660 Central Texas species that are listed? And how many signs should be manufactured? Well, we started out with a bird species list, and that was primarily obtained from the BioBlitz in Char Ranch Park in the fall of 2020, and the BioBlitz of Dripping Springs Ranch Park in 2022. We also got information from Feeder Watch, bird surveys, eBird observations from master naturalists and birding club members, and separate notebook lists from each park. We also looked at how many signs would be needed. If you had looked at the previous slide right there at Char Ranch Park, that park is fairly small and we can't accommodate too many signs. So we chose a round number of 50 signs, and Dripping Springs Ranch Park, we chose 60. Okay. And then the other development issue was figuring about formatting. So there were a lot of things to format with that: common names of the birds, genders, seasonal presence in the area, and font. The project details included 6-inch square signs for Charo Ranch and 4-inch for Dripping Springs. And Charo Ranch, we had to place them horizontally on the boards, which were larger, and Dripping Springs, we used vertical posts instead, and we placed them on the perimeter to overlook when you're watching for birds. And we also wanted to include a Hays County Master Naturalist sign, which is on the far right. Okay, so the approval process was very lengthy. It started with the board, with the Hays County Master Naturalist Board and City of Dripping Springs. I went to them separately, and we had several meetings, and we met with the Commissioner's Court, and they approved this. The board, Hays County Master Naturalist, approved it in April of 2023, and then the Commissioner's Court approved it later, and the Dripping Springs Ranch Board also gave the decision, they left it up to the Commissioner's Court to go ahead and make that decision with approvals. And then, of course, there's a lot of time involved to meet with the Charo Ranch Program Coordinator, Master Naturalist, and Commissioner Chair to determine which the appropriate common name for each bird, which was based on proper naming convention and the positioning of the birds, the positioning of the wording for each sign to eliminate background interference. And we went ahead and included the seasonal presence in the area, whether they were there for winter just as a migratory bird, or in the spring and summer, or if they were year-round. And then we had to decide on the visibility of where to place the words in the picture. And we went through this process several times. We reviewed proofs, and the third time's a charm. But then we had some extra pixelated photos that did not work for the vendor to produce the signs, and we had to obtain more photographs from Hays County Master Naturalist to do that. The signs, finally, everything could begin, manufacturing began, and the signs were completed in late January and installed by Master Naturalists. And the larger Master Naturalist sign was also prominently displayed in the bird blind. The future efforts that we plan for Hays County at this point is to go ahead and include all sorts of signs within bird stations within Hays County. And we can design differently or similarly, but I think within Dripping Springs, we're going to use the same design and perhaps same vendor. We may do different vendors, it just depends. But there's a lot of other blinds that need some definite identification for beginning birders. And we also do continuing ongoing research programs like when mentioned in the previous project, citizen science programs such as Eastern Bluebird, Nest Watch, Feeder Watch, Chimney Swift Watch, and seasonal bioblitzes and monthly bird surveys, where we do nature walks and bird walks, and we start them at the bird blinds, and all the people coming in can look at the bird photos and ask questions. And it's great for kids, it's great for adults, it works wonderful for all sorts of groups. So we envision a bright and colorful educational opportunity for all bird viewing stations within Hays County. Have fun birding.
Wonderful, Tina. And I just put in the chat that picture says it all that you have on your last slide. It's beautiful. Okay, we have about 4 minutes for questions. I want to give the opportunity to our judges to ask questions first.
Hey, I've got a question. So I see 5 members in that picture in your last slide there, but how many of the Hill Country, Hays County Master Naturalist members were a part of this project?
Actually, Michael Mavis from Charo Ranch and I led the primary, the project. We had Tom Hausler behind to help take photos. And we pretty much led the project on our own. I foresee that in the future, what's going to happen is we'll be meeting with other people who are project leaders in their city and at their blinds. And then we will actually be expanding this significantly with the different Hays County Master Naturalists, so that they can also participate and we can decide and cooperate and determine what would work for their particular bird blind, because each of them are very different. And we don't know what they're going to want or whether the city is going to agree with all this. I had to get a lot of approval from the city and the parks commissioners to get everything approved. And so that takes a long time, and you have to be very diligent and have to be patient and work hard to accomplish all that. But I foresee that when we spread the whole project throughout Hays County, that there's going to be a lot more discussion and a lot more master naturalists involved.
Perfect, thanks.
I have a couple I'm going to moderate from the chat from some judges. Have you received feedback from the parks and or citizens who have used the signs so far?
Definitely. We have had many nature walks and bird walks, and we always begin by introducing the bird blind and showing that to the people, and they're always thrilled, and they have a lot of questions regarding the birds. And oh, I didn't know this bird looked like that. Wait a minute, the male and female look different. They're sexually dimorphic, so they learn new terms. They learn different things about each bird. And I had one master naturalist say, I never knew what an osprey looked like until I looked at the picture that you had up in the visual blind, and I never knew what they looked like, and I just saw one. So she was very thrilled. We went ahead and did have a ribbon cutting in February after installing these signs. And the director of the Parks and Community Services was there, and Paul Fuchel, also the Dripping Springs president of the Birding Club, was there. And we have a lot of people that are very thankful for this and help push to get this project through also.
Tina, I'm sorry, I do need to cut you off. So you do have an opportunity as a panelist. There are 2 more questions in chat. If you're able to answer them as a panelist, you can chat the responses. So there's a question about are there any QR codes pointing to websites for eBoard or Merlin or for Project Feeder Watch? And then the other question is, can you share the vendor you used to mount the photos? And so if you can try and answer those in chat, or if you want to send that to send that information to us in an email, we can add it in chat for you if you're not able to add it in chat. But I do need to move on to the next presenter,
Okay.
Beverly Pritchard, is here with a team today to present on the Blue Stems chapter, Denison Public Library Texas Master Naturalist Blue Stem Chapter Book Award Project. So Beverly, you have presenter permissions, and when you're ready, go ahead and start sharing.
All right. My name is Sarah Cheek. I'm from the Denison Public Library. Beverly's here with me.
Hello, everybody.
And I'm about to start sharing our slides. Good. A minute. Slideshow. Okay, is it showing up all right on there?
Not yet, no ma'am.
Okay. Let's see. Forgive me.
It's okay. And Sarah, I do have them as backup. So if you need me to show those, I'm happy to do that as well.
Okay. Let's see. Should be screen application.
Oh,
Is
looks
it?
like it's going.
Yes.
Okay. All right, put that into full screen and then you're ready to go.
Okay, slide in there. That one. Okay. All right.
Looks great.
Okay. This is a collaborative project between the Denison Public Library and the Blue Stem chapter, the Texas Master Naturalist. So it started out as an idea. I actually approached the Blue Stem Master Naturalist. I'm the cataloger at the Denison Public Library.
And the master naturalist.
Yeah, and I approached the chapter to see if they were interested in partnering with the library to promote conservation books in Grayson County. So the reason this started, my concern as a librarian, the picture you're seeing right now is just a small portion of our library. So we have to think about not just buying and cataloging good quality books, but make people aware that we also do have good quality books. Is this showing up okay for everyone?
Yes, ma'am, it looks great.
Yes, okay. All right. As a Texas Master Naturalist, I'm living in an area with a lot of growth, new jobs, new homes. My concern is, how do we sustain this in Grayson County as well? How do we keep this? So I found a way that can hopefully address both of those concerns. All right. As a librarian, we often use awards as a way to point out good quality literature. I'm showing you a sample of how we show awards in our library. We've got little stickers right above the spine label. There are tons of awards out there, but one of the things I started noticing when we started looking for awards and looking for good books to buy is there is so little on conservation, and a lot of it is global, not just devoted to Texas or our county. And then I started thinking, here we have all these new conservationists, all these experts in training coming in. So let's add an award. Let's put a new award in, the Texas Master Naturalist Blue STEM Chapter recommended book list. And this is actually the spine label that we're using. We had a resident artist, Mary, who was able to create a very nice little spine label for us to put on the books. Okay, I'm talking as a master naturalist now. I'm going to be skipping back and forth between hats. Master naturalist, when you start making this list, the first thing before you start emailing the members or anything, you need to determine the criteria for book selection. Do you want new books? Do you want classics? Do you want influential works? Don't care when they were published? Do you want multimedia? Is there a DVD you want to add on the list or something? Okay. Do you want to do just a list like the Texas 2x2 does? Or do you want to submit a bunch of book names and have members vote for the winners like Hugo or Bluebonnet? They have winners and they have nominees. How often will you do this? When you're starting this project, are you just going to do it once? Are you going to do it annually? How often do you want to do this? What's the cutoff date for submitting books? When are you done and ready to have a list to share with the library? Okay, when you're asking your members for list, please give the name and author of the book as completely as possible. If you give the library a book about bats by Smith, we have no idea. There's a million Smiths out there. We need a little bit more clarification on that. On the older books, if you're able to give a reason why this book is better than the newly published books, the librarians are more likely to buy it. They're more likely to actively look for it. The only used book that we bought off this list was one that had a blurb saying it was the best book for beginning wildscaping. And we jumped through hoops to get that book. If the book can only be bought through a specialty website, local authors book, I think one of our ladies had to go out to a special website to get a local authors book recently. Provide the name of the website and preferably the link. Okay. On the Blue STEM book award process, this is a form that we're going to use in the future. You can look at this later. I'm sure you're going to be like me and you're going to be going back over the presentations, but important talking points. I put submit the name of up to 5 books. If you've got a lot of members, it's important to limit it. If you've got a huge list, it's going to be very intimidating for the library. Let's see, you'll notice I give a date in June for please provide this information, but the book display is going to be in August and September. Okay, libraries traditionally order books at certain times per month, and we don't all get them through Amazon Prime. Sometimes it takes a while to get in. So we need some lag time to get them in, get them processed, to get everything ready. So we need at least a month's lag time probably before we can put out a display from the time we receive your list. Okay, let's see. Be sure to emphasize to your members that the library will not buy all the books. Awesome if they do, but it's probably not going to happen. Please note, we are going to have the book recommendation list on the TMM Blue STEM chapter website. I need to put it into PDF so we can get that on there. Okay, this is from the library point of view, what we did. Okay, this is a portion of the list that we got, and I put it into a nice presentable format so we can put it out at the front desk of the library. People can pick it up. This is some more of it. Let's see. What I did was put a note in the cataloging record. I chose to say Texas Master Naturalist recommended, just something simple, easy to remember. So the public can go into our library catalog. This is what the public view of our library catalog, and they can search Texas Master Naturalist recommended. All the books come up. They can see whether they're able to be checked out. They can place holds. They can find them in our library. Just a nice way to display them. This picture right here is some of the library staff members standing in front of our display. Our director is on the far left-hand side. Our display, we usually have 2 or 3 displays going at once. You can actually see one in the background, kind of on the right-hand side of the picture. And the Texas Master Naturalist display had been out for about 2 months at this point. And it received 85% of the checkouts from our display. This is exactly what we want from displays. This is a librarian's dream. We love it. Okay. As a master naturalist, ideas when approaching your library? Have a point of contact for the group that the library can route questions to. Give your library flyers or FAQs about the Texas Master Naturalist program. We're getting questions. You'll be getting, the library that you choose will be getting questions too. Okay. One of the important things that you need to remember, and you need to make sure your members remember, no collection in a library is permanent. Books get lost, they get loved to death. So maybe the book that you love, and we all have books we love, may not be there in a year. Hopefully it's so popular that the library wants to reorder it. But be aware that it may not always be in the library. Just consider it a compliment. Somebody loved it so much that they either didn't bring it out or they wore it out. Okay, ask what help your library needs. This was a constantly evolving process for both us and as a library and the Master Naturalist. I would say, all we want to do is promote conservation materials, however the library feels that's useful. Also, artwork. We are very lucky with artwork because we had people on staff who were able to do the artwork for us. Okay. Let's see. Advantages to the library when you come in. Okay. You can point out books. We are pointing out books of local interest. We're attracting the discerning public. I'm hoping we're also having more Texas Master Naturalists come in and check out books. Collection development. We want the best books. These are the people that can tell us the best books to get on conservation and local wildlife. Okay. And of course, the obvious thing is collaboration between Texas Master Naturalist and the library. We're having programs as well with the Texas Master Naturalist. Okay, advantages to Texas Master Naturalist. We're pointing out books of local ecological interest. We're attracting the public who is interested in conservation and maybe don't know what to do, how to help. Obviously, collaboration. We all want collaboration. We all want to be working together. Okay, we want to inspire regular library patrons with a love for an environment. If these people are in the library, they want to learn. Let's teach them. And we want to let them know that our county has natural features that need saving. We get so much on save the rainforest, save the whales. Yes, that's important, but we also want to save the monarchs, save the painted bunnings. We also want to save the prairies. We want our county to be beautiful too. Okay, I am going to leave this up for a little while during questions. That's the email address that you can email me with any questions with. And let us know if you want a copy of the Bluestem chapter book list. You can just email me. I would love to have book selections, collection development. I am big on it. I order mainly the juvenile, nonfiction, middle school ages. So that's, of course, my primary interest, but we've also got the fiction collection development in person here as well. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, judges, I want to give you a quick minute to come off mic and ask any burning questions. We do have a few in the chat, and I know some of you have put some in the chat too, so I'd like to be able to get to some of those also.
Can I ask how many members of the chapter are involved in your project?
I think it was probably about 10 who submitted. I'd have to look back at the original email. It had names attached.
Okay, so one of the first questions is if I noticed someone asked about getting your email address and a copy of the list of the list for this year, and you have provided that and offered that. So that is what's on the screen right now. Another question coming in from judges is, does the Bluestem chapter have a book club for discussing books, and are they chosen from that list?
No.
We do not. We do not at this time. However, the library is also interested in book clubs, so it may be a future project.
Okay. Are other libraries in your chapter's area interested in starting such a program? So are there other libraries? Then this might be a question for Beverly to answer. Are there
Okay.
other libraries within your chapter's area?
Well,
And have they expressed interest in starting a program?
we have had libraries from other other chapters have asked us about it when we first posted it on our Bluestem Facebook page, and then you put it on the TMN site. And so we've worked with them and kind of given them some of the same information on how we went about this. This is brand new. I believe we just started it in July or June. So we're still new at this too, and getting all of our ducks in a row, if you will. But it was well received from our posting and from our trying to get our people to give us books. They were very eager. We had a bunch of people very eager to give us books on what influenced their lives to become a master naturalist, what influenced their journey as a master naturalist. That's what we were looking for, both for children, juveniles, and adults. So that's what we were looking for. But yes, we have had interest, not right here in Grayson County, but we're hoping for that. That's in process.
Okay. Another question was, how were the addition of the new books paid for? How many new books were added, and were there books for all ages? So 3 questions there.
Okay, there were books for all ages. Some of the books we were lucky and we already had in our collection. There were 2 donations, one of them the Texas Master Naturalist Handbook. And the rest of it just came out of a portion of our regular budget.
Okay.
So we just did it as part of our collection development during the
That's
day.
library budget.
I would suggest, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would suggest for other libraries that they set aside a portion of their budget and do it all at once, because it gets a little complicated when you're working with several different budgets. But this was the first year this was a learning experience.
And how many new books in total were added?
I cannot tell you offhand. I'd have to go back to, I want to say there were 17. This display does not show all of them. They are constantly checked out. I want to say 17 were added, but that may not be accurate.
Okay. We are at the 12:40. I'm gonna, if you'll hang on just one second, I'm gonna hand over a permission presentation role to our next presenter. And as they are getting things set up, perhaps you can answer this last question in chat. The question, and I think it is in reference to your project. Did you interact with Sierra Club, Nature Conservancy, and other conservation organizations with this effort?
Not at this time.
And then Wanda, with the East Texas chapter, I just sent you permission or presentation privileges, so you should be able to start sharing your presentation.
All right.
Okay, so in reference to the question that was just asked, Beverly said not at this time. Thank you, Beverly. Our next presentation is with our East Texas chapter. Wanda Rauscher from our East Texas chapter is presenting their Wildscape and Trail renovation project at the Tyler Nature Center.
Hello. I am going to start with the interview of my project leaders and our key stakeholder. And let's see if we can make this work from my computer.
I'll give you a thumbs up if I hear it.
Can you see and hear?
We can see, we cannot hear. So stop it real fast. And
All
then
right.
stop sharing. And then we're going to reshare, but we're going to make sure that we click that audio button, share computer audio.
Where is that button?
It is on the share screen. So when you get to that share, after you press that share screen, it is, let me show you a picture of what it looks like on mine.
I see it.
Do you see it?
I see it. I see it.
Okay, yes.
So I say share, and then I say go. How's that? Yay, thank you.
We started
You
the
wanna know
project
why-
back in 2012, and at that time it was a joint project with the Native Plant Society of Texas, Tyler chapter.
We began helping here in early 2023. And we just thought because our Master Naturalist chapter, East Texas chapter, meets here, that this would be a great place to just devote some time and help it get back in shape and bring it back so the public could enjoy it. We're the group that comes out here usually once or twice a month, and we just lop limbs, we pick up limbs, we move in the trail that's going to interfere with someone wanting to walk it.
So we have actually 3 different levels of trail systems here. We have a fully ADA accessible paved trail. We also have what's considered to be an ADA wilderness trail. So even though it's just gravel surface, just at grade and width, that's accessible to wheelchairs. And then the remote trails in the back traverse all of the different habitats on the property. We have a little over 80 acres and over 2 miles of trails that TMN has been maintaining. We've never had anybody other than that was an activist, and we really appreciate the work that they've done with that, because that is one of the things that the public uses almost on a daily basis. We're open from daylight until dusk, 7 days a week. We just started doing that this last calendar year. So this is the greatest amount of public use that we've been able to offer due to the help of the volunteers that we've had through TMN.
Well, in the version, to create a landscape using native plants so that visitors to the Tyler Nature Center could see that you can use native plants in a landscape instead of non-native plants. Then we did a redo of the project in 2023 where it's just the East Texas chapter of the Master Naturalists. And the reason we had to do a redo was because of the COVID pandemic and because they were building this new regional headquarters.
But when we actually constructed in 2019, we had to essentially let the Wildscape go because we were in a state of construction for almost 4 years due to COVID. And after that, we were really anxious to have somebody step back in and actually refurbish the Wildscape and get it back up to the standards that we have today for school kids and other visitors that come and enjoy it.
So we came back in 2023 and we salvaged what was still here from 2012, which there were a lot of plants, but the intent was to make it a pollinator garden to feature native plants that also support native pollinators. We get compliments all the time. There's so many other groups that use this building and they get to come out and see it, and I think it's an excellent outreach project for the Master Naturalists.
Our job never ends as far as trail maintenance, because you can walk one time on a trail and it's pretty clear and you don't really anything physical. Same trail after a storm or rain event, and you're going to have down trees and limbs. So you always want to periodically walk the trail and get it back in shape.
I guess the biggest challenge was not being able to come in here for 3 years. That was a big challenge. And then getting to understand that if they see bees or they see butterflies, that the reason they're here is because we're featuring native plants.
When we first started, it was post-construction. So the area had been closed for several years for major construction. So nothing was done in regards to maintenance to any of the trails. When you leave a trail for 2 or 3 years to go back to the wild, it's just to clear it so people can walk. There's the Upland Loop over here. It was a nature trail, and it had all of these plants identified. That was totally in disrepair. In fact, we didn't even know where the trail was, and so we had to kind of use some of the posts that were used for ID and figure out, okay, this is how the take time is the invasive plant removal. When we went to go and try identify these plants that had been identified in the past in this little booklet for the Nature Center, we were having a hard time finding the plants. And I finally realized that one of the reasons we were having a hard time finding these plants is because the privet had just taken over. And so that is a big challenge, the removal of invasive privet here.
To me, it is to keep bringing in more of the East Texas regional plants. We have borrowed, I will call them natives from other regions of Texas, just because they do really well and because they're so great for pollinators. For example, the Greg Smith flower over here, but we're butterfly, not really indigenous to this region of Texas, but I'd like to see more of the East Texas natives introduced or put back here. So we're going to focus on that, finding more of the plants that evolved in East Texas, because then we'll actually be feeding the pollinators that evolved with them. So that's the next goal, and then also to put some signs out here identifying the plants.
I think the bringing back Nature Link ID, there was a booklet for the Nature Center. It contained, I want to say, close to 60 different plants here. And just to ID those plants, that's a good start. And bring that little nature loop back to life where people can enjoy that, students can enjoy that. But right now, it's just mainly we're just back the trail entrances and working on the invasive privet that is so prevalent here.
Excuse me just a moment while I rearrange stuff on my screen. So again, this is the East Texas chapter project, and we combined both of our major efforts here at the Tyler Nature Center. Our native pollinator demonstration garden and the trail work. Now, you may ask, how did we get the money to get started on the wildscape? Because of course, that is not a cheap endeavor. That we wanted to do it in December of 2022, and we started planning and started working on a Bring Back the Monarch grant that's offered by the Native Plant Society. I would tell you other chapters that the grant period is normally from sometime in November to the middle of February if you're trying to go for one of those. I've got the where to go find out details. You need a plan. You need a detailed plan. And of course, the Native Plant Society has done this a few times. And what they want is evidence that you're going to be able to keep it up, that it's not something that you do put in one year and then the next year it's in disarray and you're starting over. You need a plan for how you're going to have continuity on that garden. You need nectar plants for pollinators, and you need some kind of a plant to offer shelter. We use the dwarf myrtles and the possum haw holly. Then we had to, of course, sell our stakeholders at TPWD on campus, and boy, they were very enthusiastic, which is great. And we submitted the application. While we were waiting, we had chapter members to having this happen, and so we got some private donations so that we could hit the SFA plant sale before we actually had funding from our Bring Back the Monarch grant. Setting up the beds from anarchy to making them civilized for us took a couple of work days and all hands on deck. And we already had a the schedules so that once a month there would be a team coming out. These are pictures from August of 2023 and then September 2024. We actually got our $600 grant on March the 1st. Of course, the grant only covers the plant purchases. So everything else we need, the mulch, the tools, the hoses, and of course, lots of labor. I will say that natives don't need a lot of watering. In our summers, they need some watering. So we added that to the schedule and got volunteers willing to come out and handle that. This is spring. This is May. Those giant cone flowers in the front by the porch are just gorgeous. And wine cups, which is my dad's favorite flower, just beautiful. What she's doing, designed so that something will always be blooming all year long to support the pollinators. And I love to take pictures of insects, and I have a lot of fun out in our garden. Of course, our little Halictidae green bee. And a quick word with regards to our trail work. The group of them that does work on trails is called our Wild Bunch. And they don't just do the Tyler Nature Center, but that's the hours that you see on the screen are those applied to the Tyler Nature Center. They're out at Faulkner Park in Tyler. They visit Tyler State Park for specific projects. They go to the Mineola Nature Center, but they devoted a good little chunk of time for we can have the place where we have our meetings also be our home base and the place that our public can enjoy. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Wanda. So I started my career out at the Tyler Nature Center at the Parks and Wildlife office there over almost 26 years ago now. So that place certainly has changed and it looks amazing through the pictures. I haven't seen it since the total renovation, but I'm excited to go back and see it now. I don't know if anybody else had a little bit of internet trouble. There was a little bit of crackling in and out, and I'm hopeful that the recording will kind of clean up some of that, hopefully. But we would want to make sure that we want to get your video and everything to put on the website, just in case some other people had trouble hearing it too.
Yes, I'm already, Michelle, I'm 2 steps ahead of you. The video that Wanda shared is already on our YouTube channel. And I dropped it in the chat. We'll make sure that we link that on the TMN Tuesday page.
Thank you, Mary
And
Pearl.
so let's any questions from our judges first off, if you want to come off mic. If not, you can put them in chat.
Wanda, do you have any way of putting signage out at the gardens or to indicate that the master naturalists are doing the work?
We have a temporary sign that we put out that you saw in the video. We don't have permanent signage yet. That's on the list of that's on our wish list, along with the plant labels.
Okay.
And that was actually another question from another judge in the chat too. And so Wanda, just know that I have some temporary signs, that project signs, if your chapter is in need of one of those. We can get it, I can bring them to the annual meeting.
Oh, that would be
and
wonderful.
to, any member that's attending the annual meeting so they can bring home to you.
Super.
Let's see. So yeah, that was a big question. Any signs about visibility and identifying it as a question, identifying it as a project of your chapter. So you've answered that. Someone asked, is the 231 volunteer hours for maintenance? Is it strictly on maintenance for the project?
Okay. On the trail, there's 199 hours for 2023 and 231 hours so far in 2024. On the Wildscape, it's 220 hours in 23 and 105 hours so far in 24. Hands-on work in the garden and on the trail.
Okay, so implementation and maintenance at the same time, probably.
Yes.
Okay. Next question, does the East Texas chapter provide education and outreach opportunities at the Nature Center? And I'm going to put a spin on that question. Do you provide education outreach opportunities on this specific project also?
We have not yet. That is what this is all leading up to.
Okay. Great.
2024 is the first year that we've been able to hold our chapter meetings back at the center, and we're having our new class training at the Tyler Nature Center, and outreach is exactly the next thing on my list.
Because the Nature Center, it really just opened to the public recently, right?
It was in 23.
Okay.
In 2023. They opened and then they had to close again because a little intermittent. But we've got the Fly Fishing Club and the Native Plant Society and some homeschool groups that all use the facility. Plus, again, it's open to the public, dawn to dusk, 7 days.
That's awesome. It's so good to hear that that space is being used for more now with that renovation. So another question, will you need to seek additional funding for the future? I think your answer to that has already been yes, correct?
Yes, and our chapter has budgeted $300 a year in support of the Wildscape ongoing.
Okay, I have it's just 1 o'clock. Actually, so yes, we need to move on to the next presenter. And that will be our thank you, Wanda, for everything.
Okay, I'm gonna go quiet.
We're gonna move on and I'm gonna share North Texas. Please let me know who I should be sharing presenter rights with.
Would be myself and Juliet.
Is that Melanie?
Yes,
Myself,
it's Melanie. Melanie, yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. All right, coming your way, and whenever you're ready, you can start sharing. As they're getting their screen set up and ready to present, this is our final presentation this morning will be our North Texas chapter presenting on their project, ¿Qué tipo de naturalista eres? And here to tell us all about that project is Melanie Grimes and Juliet Angulo. I think I pronounced that right. Sorry.
Angulo. So this is Melanie Grimes, and again, representing the North Texas chapter. And I'm going to let Juliet actually pronounce that first sentence correctly.
Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you all so much. I'm Juliet Angulo, and this is ¿Qué tipo de naturalista eres?
And that is a translation of what kind of naturalist are you? And what we're talking about today are our community connection materials. So got some history here. This was a project of actually my training class back in 2018, where we were assigned the task to create a Dallas area parks brochure. And one of our team members, Megan Peoples-Canute, during the training sessions, actually began sketching what she called naturalist characters. And this is her drawing board right here, guys. Okay, so this was literally what we pulled from for this project. Now, the inspiration, obviously, from her doing this is what kind of naturalist are you? You know, that question. And our class project team members are all listed here. The leads were Judy Carpenter, Donna Clark, myself, Megan, and also Dorothy Thompson. And know that as you see the things I'm going to be sharing later, Megan also wrote a bio for each one of her naturalist characters. And the original graphic designer who donated a ton of time on this project was Jenna Copeland. So over to the right is a picture of some of us from the summer social that year. Now in 2018, we entered our Dallas Parks brochure that we created into the annual meetings contest, as well as the poster, and we're kind of happy with the results there. In 2019, because we'd attended and participated in the 2018 annual meeting, we were all the wiser because several people came up to us and said, you know, you've got these 7 characters, but you're missing 2. So they told us we needed the wetlander and the entomologist. And Megan went and sketched those, and those were added to our Dallas Parks brochure on the front cover. Also that same year, I created a large retractable banner that featured all the naturalist characters and their bios, and also a sandwich board. And we use those at indoor and outdoor events regularly. Now, this is just a quick look at what that brochure looked like. And actually, this is revised because I just had it reprinted. It's like the 4th reprinting of this brochure. It's been so successful. So this is kind of just a quick view of it. because that's not the focal point today. And then this is a poster that goes on the sandwich boards that we've been using now for the last 4 years, I guess, 5 years. And so at this time it's two-sided. I think that was at EarthX, so we had a good group there. A little more history is had some wonderful support from TMN in 2019 also. In Mary Pearl, we worked together to get some t-shirts designed, and they were pre-sold before the annual meeting. Some of you actually may have this shirt. I know I do, I have several. And then they were distributed at the meeting. And Mary Pearl also made that retractable banner available to other chapters. And here's that banner. That's the great view in my backyard. Okay, and this is actually to the right. It's at the annual meeting at the t-shirt distribution table. So the reason we're here is 2020. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Juliet at this point.
Listo, gracias Melanie, y hola naturalistas, hello naturalists. I am so excited to be here today. Thank you so much for sharing all of your projects. I love the themes of collaboration and community, and this is what we here at the Latinx community really are based on. So I'm going to go into a little bit of the history, the purpose, and the accomplishment of this committee that we created in 2020. In January of 2020, Blanca, Yolene, and I met at a education and diversity committee meeting to help review and polish some of our outreach materials. As we were getting together and poring over those materials, one thing really came clear immediately, and it was that even though the Dallas population at the time was listed as over 40% Spanish speaking primarily as their primary language, our outreach material did not reflect that. So with the general interest of education and our passion for respective cultures and multi-ethnicities, we decided to join forces and create a committee that was dedicated to representing the Latinx experience. And so we quickly identified 4 pillars of communication to expand our reach. We definitely prioritize that representation and authenticity so that we set out to increase our presence in existing chapter events that were either close to Latino neighborhoods or of interest to the Latinx bilingual experience. On top of that, we wanted to add additional events, at least 4 per year, that were specifically catering to the Latino culture and the community. And we thought that to make the most of these in-person outreach events, we would translate or create user guides in our educational trunks for the pollinators and birds so that anyone, any master naturalist, regardless of Spanish proficiency, could interact with the Spanish-speaking public. Now, as we know, 2020 had its own plan and its own ideas. So all of those 3 main pillars kind of went out the door, and we had to refocus, reshift, and focus our energy. And so like Blanca mentions, we, instead of hitting the brakes, we just dove headfirst into this pamphlet translating of the "What Type of Naturalist Are You" brochure. We identified this as one of the most comprehensive, effective, and easy to use materials that also had a presence online through that QR code. So we focused on this particular project or brochure to do our translations. I do want to give a little shout out to the different members that helped us along the way. We had both native speakers and Spanish as their second or third language join us, just in appreciation of the culture and wanting to support and be part of this initiative. So thank you very much. And while we were doing those translations, we divided it amongst ourselves, had regular meetings, monthly meetings to proofread. It did take a few months to translate. One of the things we had to be mindful of are those idioms or words that get lost in translation or just don't share that same cultural context. And we had a lot of meetings as well once we were completed with the translation, just to make sure that they were universally understood words, because of course, there are as many dialects and slang and contexts as there are countries and communities and cultures that speak Spanish or identify as Spanish speaking. And once we finished that translation, the document lived online until budget could become available. And then just a little tip of the hat to everyone that's been talking about how long these projects take, about just planting those seeds and watering and letting them germinate and blossom to the projects that we're presenting today. This is just an example of that for sure. In the meantime, while we had that project completed, we also helped with bilingual social media posts for Hispanic Heritage Month that honor that Latinx experience. And we finished out the year with a bang by partnering with the Dallas Public Library. A little shout out to public libraries as well, that helped us host a bilingual children's story time. Thank you.
Beautifully communicated. Thank you, Juliet. And so you can tell history of the project, right? So following their translation, Amy Tash of Master Naturalist in our group, she spent a long time, many hours creating the first draft of the artwork for this version, the Spanish version of the parks brochure. So during COVID, right, 2023, I created a 12 by 18 framed version of the poster that could go in all trunks, that could be displayed at events when use of the sandwich board or the retractable banner weren't feasible. And just know these have been profound for our group in communicating with the public. So in 2024, this is what's new. And this is why we're here, okay, is that based on what had been done by the Latinx Committee, Sonia Mahoney stepped in and completed the Spanish translation. And then Amy Martin, with our chapter, she pitched in to edit the features for the parks because Spanish is a lot longer. And so we needed to edit a lot of that copy to make it fit. And then I worked with Amy and Sonia on the final edits. I enlisted an outside graphic designer to complete the brochure. And I do want to note that Ginger Greetons has been a part of this since the very beginning. She has championed this project since it began and from start to finish. And then as the graphic designer was working on this, what was actually incredible is that she was able to change the names in the actual naturalist badges to Spanish. And she had to get a little creative by moving some things around, like the forester's walking stick and stuff like that. I'll see who can catch that when I show you the poster again. So the awesome result is that we've got everything now in Spanish and English. So this is the Spanish brochure right here. I'm only going to scan through it, but it's beautifully done. And you can see the characters with their Spanish names. So that's the whole same brochure in Spanish. This is the thing I'm most excited about, and that is the sandwich board that we'd used in the past now has a Spanish version on the back and an English version on the front. It debuted at the State Fair here just 2 weeks ago. Sorry, let me get my buttons right. And these are the 12 by 18 posters that I told you about. So the Spanish version over here to the right, framed. These are framed by Amazon frames, Amazon display stands, okay? And then printed signs. But these were put in, I put them in the trunks myself on Saturday night. So they are live and able to be used. So what we are offering today and what's on our hearts and minds is being able to offer these What Kind of Naturalist Are You community connection materials to all chapters in the state, in both English and Spanish. And you're going to see on my next few slides here that's incredibly cost effective to be able to do it. And I don't know if I have time for this video actually, but I'm going to play it anyway. I may stop it. This was at the Texas State Fair that was done by Nancy Pineda Gama here a week before last. And it's And I'm going to have to stop and move on here, okay? But that will be available. So here's the deal. These sandwich boards are only $150, guys, okay? And I will help you. I've got my contact information at the end. Get these set up with your chapter's logo, your chapter's QR code, and get them ordered, because these are going to make a huge difference in every event that you have in Texas. And then you can have your chapter logo and such put on these 12 by 18s as well. These cost more because there's 8 of them for us, and it's 8 times 2 because that makes 16. So that's why it costs a bit more. This I pulled this together for all the chapters because obviously the chapters can't use our parks brochure. Okay, so what I created was this 8.5 by 11 sheet you can print on your home printer. Don't do any page scaling. When you print it out, it's going to fold precisely in thirds. You can print on the other side and create your own brochure. And obviously we have that in Spanish. So you may not have Nancy Pineda there at your event or a Spanish speaker, but if they see that Spanish side of the sandwich board or that 12 by 18 poster, you can certainly hand them this to be able to further communicate. Details about the project. We spent about $2,650 as a chapter, another $5,400 in-kind donations. We've had, I know, well over 800 volunteer hours on this initiative. Besides the 25 volunteers, every single solitary chapter member has made an impact by using these tools at events. Project needs, we've doubled our budget basically because it's English and Spanish, but the biggest thing here is getting these out to the chapters. And I spoke to Megan last week, the original creator of all this, right? And her chapter has 30 people in it, and they couldn't afford to do the sandwich board a few years ago that she had actually created everything for, okay? They couldn't afford to do it. So the ask here is for money to be able to pick the 3 smallest chapters in the state and do this for them. Lesson learned, don't do this during a pandemic, okay? That's the key, and that's it. So there's my contact information. I'm here to help, and I'm easy to find online if you don't have access to this later. You just look me up, and I'm there. Thank y'all. Oh, I have one last thing, and that is that the reason I'm here is because fellow master naturalist and friend Carol Silverthorne was at the same training event that I was at 3 weeks ago. And I had excitedly shared the Spanish version with her, and she said, Melanie, you need a megaphone. And so this is my megaphone today, and I really do appreciate it. So thank y'all.
I'd like to give our judges a chance to ask any questions as we get started with the Q&A process. And as they're maybe thinking about question or text chatting it, I actually have a question. So you've invested in time and money into the Spanish resources for your chapter. What would you say has been your return on investment?
Well, it just launched at the State Fair a week and a half ago. So so far as I can say this, I was at the chapter meeting on Wednesday this week, and I sat at a table next to me, one of the people that worked the booth at the State Fair that utilized these tools, had the brochure, had the sandwich board, and actually they had the 12 by 18 out as well. He leaned over to me and he said, we had a number of people walk up, and it was really so cool to see what they were seeing, and we just immediately were able to hand them that brochure, and it really was connecting. So I heard that from someone who was actually there. The key here is that we don't have a lot of to Juliet's point, we don't have a lot of Spanish speakers at these events. So that was fabulous what you all did last month here in TMN Tuesday to help with that. But by having that tool that you can actually hand them is incredibly valuable because they get it. It's something personalized for them, basically, for people of another language other than our blessed English. So.
And before launching into this, has your chapter done an analysis of the nationalities and groups in your chapter's area? How did you come to the idea to focus on this nationality, this language?
That all came from Juliet when she presented. So go ahead, Juliet.
Yeah, on that, we just focused on when looking at the language breakdown that over 40% were primary Spanish speakers. And because the three of us were native fluent Spanish speaking, we figured let's start there. But that's just the beginning. That's just the start. And there are so many cultures and so many beautiful representations and diversity to also include. I also wanted to add real quick on as far as return on investment. When we finished the actual brochure, we had that as a tool when we went out to community centers and started creating those partnerships with the library, and with we also had one with an online radio station, and we were able, or the idea was to use that as the script, and since it was already translated and vetted by our group, we were just ready to keep that going so it can expand in that way.
Are there any questions from our judges or any other chat questions?
I see a chat question from a judge, Michelle. I can help read it. It says, you mentioned how the project has grown and expanded. What are your next steps?
Well, the next steps are, I mean, what I want to do immediately is get an email out through the listserv that actually provides these reasons, that gives my information and some of the information to be able to get these things done. Next steps in our chapter is obviously to ensure use of these, because I'd heard, here on the one hand, the sandwich board is too heavy to carry. Okay. It's cumbersome, that sort of thing. And it takes having someone who can actually get that over to wherever the event's being held. So next step is truly educating. The biggest piece with why we're here today is to get education from the Spanish speakers amongst us in our chapters to actually teach us how to use these tools effectively at events. And that's really Nancy Pineda is one we're going to look to train us in the North Texas chapter, as well as some other folks, so that the rest of us know what we can do to be able to interact and more effectively utilize these. So we definitely have next steps in fully utilizing the Spanish language portion of this.
Okay, Mary Pearl and Hannah, do you see any other questions in the chat? As we mentioned, we had tech difficulties today, and so I seem to have dropped off and dropped back in again. And so I don't have all of the chat in front of me.
No, I don't see any other questions, but we are at time for their presentation, and really Melanie and Juliet really appreciate y'all's time and energy, and appreciate everybody who was able to present and join us today. Appreciate y'all's willingness to share information about your projects, your interests, and ways that your chapter is working within your community of natural resource conservation. As the wrap up, Michelle, I don't know if you're able with your hiccups that your internet's having over there. Seems to be something in the atmosphere. Maybe it's Milton that's stirring up the Gulf Coast here, but for the attendees, thank you guys. We will have this recording on the website within the next couple of hours, if not first thing tomorrow morning, for all 5 of the presentations. And as always, we will see you in 16 short days at the annual meeting, where we will announce the final winners of the project fair, of the 2024 exemplary project fair. That will be announced Sunday morning, October 27th. And then all final award winners from throughout the annual meeting will be posted on the website the week after the conference, after we all rest up and regain composure after a crazy couple of days. So excited to find out those winners and share that with the entire state.
Thank you everyone for participating today, and especially to our chapters who submitted projects, and our presenters who worked extra hard getting their presentation ready for all of our participants today. Thanks everyone.